Hello everyone and welcome to today's reading of The Supernatural. Today's chapter, Talking to the Dead. Death is the end of life. However, most religions teach that the soul, or the spirit as it is often called, survives in some way. If the soul continues to exist, some people believe it might be possible to communicate with the dead. In the 1850s, people began saying that they were in contact with spirits. These people became known as mediums. They held seances, during which many people became convinced that they were in touch with dead friends and relatives. Within a few years, the spiritualist movement, as it became known, had attracted many followers in Europe and America. Most people, however, remained skeptical. It seemed that some mediums were genuine, but others were suspected of trickery. Then, in 1874, the medium Florrie Cook agreed to a series of scientific tests. These were carried out by the highly respected British scientist Sir William Crookes. Florrie Cook claimed that she was able to materialize a spirit named Katie King, who was in contact with other spirits. Over a period of several months, Crookes attended many of Florrie's seances. He became convinced that he was witnessing a genuine contact with dead people. After the end of the First World War in 1918, there was a great increase in interest in spiritualism. Hundreds of thousands of young men had been killed in the fighting, and their families and friends were eager to believe that they could get in touch with them. Unfortunately, many dishonest people pretended to be mediums simply to make money. They would charge for seances and trick their customers into thinking that they were in touch with the spirits of dead relatives. The mediums made it seem as if the spirits moved tables and rapped out coded messages. Such mediums would talk to their customers before a seance and skillfully find out whose spirit they wanted to contact. Then, during the seance, the medium would pretend to receive messages from these spirits. It has been estimated that in America alone, these mediums earned $125 million in a single year. The exposure of these spook crooks, as they became known, convinced many people that spiritualism itself was nothing but fakery. In recent years, however, spiritualism has been taken more seriously. Many researchers feel that there are honest mediums who are able to communicate with the dead. Perhaps the most famous of recent mediums was the British woman Doris Stokes. She said that she was in touch with the spirits of friends and relatives of people who attended her meetings. She told them that she could hear voices which asked her to pass on messages and advice. The fact that Mrs. Stokes was able to reveal facts she could not have known herself convinced many that she was truly in touch with the dead. However, other mediums seem to be able to produce even more startling effects. These mediums are so-called psychic artists who produce works claimed to be inspired by long-dead artists. One of the best known of these is another British woman, Rosemary Brown. Mrs. Brown had already had experiences of ESP when, in 1964, she claimed to have been confronted by the figure of Franz Liszt, the famous Hungarian composer who died in 1886. Liszt, she said, began dictating music to her, which he had composed after his death. Liszt was joined by other composers, including Beethoven, Chopin, and Brahms. Without doubt, the music written down by Mrs. Brown is in the style of the great composers, but few people accept her story. At first it was suggested that Mrs. Brown might be producing the music herself, but it was soon found that she was not a good pianist, and was quite unable to understand the more complicated musical works she wrote. The truth of Rosemary Brown's claims has not been proved. The same lack of convincing proof applies to the case of Matthew Manning, who produces dozens of paintings, claiming that they are inspired by dead artists. Manning says that all he needs to do is sit with a pen and paper in front of him. Soon an artist will start to direct his hand to produce a picture. The gift of communicating with the dead is claimed by many people. Some seem more convincing than others. The mediums may quote facts or messages which it seems unlikely they would know themselves. However, it has never been proved that these facts come from the dead. Well now, what does one say about that? I suppose we all have some dead person we wish we could speak to. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll see you next time. See ya!